Cork lose the Munster final, but at least they lose it going down fighting. And it wasn't just one of those situations where the last they led from the start and just fell away towards the end, which you'd often see with an underdog team, whereby they just they got that early goal that they needed to make a game. But they went down by 5 points, or sorry, 7 points. Easily could have gone down by 10. Sean O'Shea had a chance after David Clifford's magic by the byline, and he didn't get the finish. But then Cork went straight down the other end, and Luke Connolly got the goal. And it's kind of a rivalry reborn, really, because it's been fairly like tepid stuff the last couple of years, ever since Fionn Fitzgerald got that what seemed like a fluky enough equaliser in Fitzgerald Stadium a few years ago. Cork have just fallen away ever since. And they might have won this game if only they could shoot. The amount of chances that they wasted, both goal chances and point chances. I mean, it has been a good Munster for Cork, there's no doubt about that. They did what they hadn't been doing in the past few years, which is hammer a team they should be hammering, which was Limerick, and really put them to the sword. And they gave Kerry a really good game. They need to make the Super 8s at this stage. They really do. They're going to have to beat a qualifier, because for them to kick on, they need something else to hang on to. Just putting in one good performance isn't enough to sustain you over the winter, and the huge amount of effort, the 8, 9, 10 months of training you're going to need to put in to try and make those incremental improvements to push Kerry again next year. They'll face Dublin or Roscommon in the Super 8s if they do get there as well, so they're great tests to get. And there's no doubt that they'd fancy beating Roscommon, even if Roscommon won Connacht for the second time in 3 years. What I couldn't understand, other than the terribly wasteful goal scoring opportunities that Cork had, is it was just towards the end, after Paul Ganey had gotten red carded. They obviously have a spare man somewhere on the field, and when they needed scores towards the very end, there was one kick out that Gavin Crowley, the Kerry substitute, was able to collect inside his own 45 out on the flank, uncontested. And you have a spare man and you need to push up and get those scores. Just needs a bit more game intelligence on the field. I'm sure the players are wrecked, but those are the fine margins. And if you turn over high up the field, obviously that's where you're going to get the scores. And Kerry showed more composure at the other end. I would be quite worried if I was Kerry about how often Cork were able to run up the centre. Rory Dean really good at it. A couple of other players, Gillian O'Hanlon as well. So I'd be quite worried if I was Kerry, because if you look at the National League final against Mayo were able to blitz up the centre against them, and you'd be pretty sure Dublin will be able to do the same. It's now an 81st Munster title for Kerry, which is fairly ludicrous and kind of makes the competition, the Munster Championship, a bit of a sham when you think of that. 7th title in a row as well. Seeing out the game with 14 men shows a lot of composure. Obviously David Clifford, huge in that. Just when he gets the ball, it's so rare that he does the wrong thing. Sean O'Shea as well, really excellent, got crucial scores throughout the game. Did actually fist a chance wide towards the end. I absolutely hate fisted points. I think they suck the atmosphere out of a game as well. You have a goal chance, it's excitement, and all of a sudden the air is let out of the balloon with these fisted points. It's been a real hobby horse of mine. So when he took the sensible option late on and fisted it wide, I was kind of half delighted, because I just hate them so much. The referees actually did for a couple of times, and especially the one that stood out most was Stephen O'Brien towards the very end. He checked inside his man. His man put the arm across. Stephen O'Brien grabs his arm and falls over and wins the free as well. Happened a couple of times throughout the game, and it's something that really I'd love to see it stamped out, but it's a tough one. The other thing then was the advantage rule. There was a couple of times in the game, I think Sean White in the first half, when he was going through towards the penalty area, he was fouled just outside the area, but then he had his jersey pulled again when he was about to pull the trigger inside, and he kicked the ball wide. Is it an advantage that it goes back to the original free? I don't think so. I think the advantage should continue. If you get the score, obviously you keep the score, but if you're fouled a second time, if it's in a more advantageous position, it makes sense that the free is from the second position. So Cork denied a penalty there, much as they were with Mark Collins as well. He caught a long ball and the defender dived all over him. So I think that's a couple of penalties that Cork could have had there. Peter Keane will probably be delighted to get a test. Now, he was giving it all the yara talk about how he'd take a 1-point win, and he obviously will, but at least they got a real test from this game, because there's no point learning about your team later down in the season when it's probably too late in a knockout game. He's going to find out about stuff about his team right now. what players maybe need to be changed, what tactics need to be changed. How does he finally try and cover up the middle of the field and stop teams blitzing up the centre? Because just imagine Dublin playing against them in Croke Park in the Championship in an All-Ireland semi-final. Just relying on 20-year-olds as well, like Sean O'Shea and David Clifford, and Thomas Sullivan coming up 21 years of age as well. Great to have young leaders, but they're so reliant on the young players as well. Finally then, so Kerry are in the Super 8s now at this stage, so they're going to be up against Galway, Donegal or Cavan, and most likely Meath, because Dublin are obviously going to win the Leinster final as well. None of those are really All-Ireland contenders, so there's a good chance that Mayo, well, perhaps Galway will, if Galway get a few players back from injury, they'll put up a real challenge, but it's not really against any of the real likely All-Ireland contenders there. So maybe this was Cork's or Kerry's last chance to really learn a lot about themselves, but we'll wait to see more. A quick run through of the other results then in the qualifiers. Antrim 14 points, Kildare 125, big win up there as well in Corrigan Park, which was sold out. Derry losing at home to Laois was a bit of a surprise to me, 12 points to 113. Longford 114, Tyrone 215, so just a 4-point loss for Longford and Pádraig Davis. I said it was going to be a hammering, and it might have been 4 points, but it was a 4-point hammering. Longford never looked like they were going to put up a real challenge throughout the game in terms of winning, and it was 8 points for a long time. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a 4-point hammering. Westmeath 213, Limerick 110. I'd say Westmeath would have fancied winning that game by more than 6 points, so probably a bit disappointed with that. Clare 317, Leitrim 17 points. The handicap in that game was 3 points, so that was free money as well if you went for that. Monaghan 112, Armagh 217. So I kind of wondered with Cavan drawn with Armagh, how good are Cavan going into an Ulster final if they need 2 bites at the cherry at Armagh? But Armagh really obviously are kicking on to beat Monaghan in Clones as well. And for Malachy O'Rourke, he's going to be going into his 7th season now. He's signed on for next season as well, but that is a devastating blow, and actually a bit of a blow to the Championship too, that a team that we thought was going to push all the way and possibly be able to put up a challenge against Dublin somewhere along the line, that they're now gone. But who knows what we're going to see with Armagh. Maybe in the 5th season finally under Kieran McGeeney they'll put up a real challenge. Final result then as well, Down 111, Mayo 116. Mayo, it got a bit tight towards the end, but Mayo seeing it out. David Clark getting the start ahead of Rob Henley, so interesting to see if Rob Henley hangs around, because he's been in and out of the team so many times. Will he hang around again now? David Clark making an important save, so a tough one for him. But for James Horan to keep going, like, he'd be delighted with that, and they definitely need to make the Super 8s, and if they do, who knows from there. Meath are going to be playing in the Joe McDonagh Cup next year. They're after taking Offaly's place up there as well. Very good win over Down, 419 to 215. Looked like they were going to absolutely pace Down early on, but Down made a bit of a comeback as well. Dahi Sands with a goal in the first half to help bring Down back, and some great free taking from Paul Sheehan as well. The Meath goals came from Adam Gannon, who hit 2, Nicholas Potterton and Callum O'Sullivan. In the Nicky Rackard, Sligo 214, Antrim 213 as well. And then finally in the Laurie Maher, 223 to Leitrim, 222 to Lancashire. Leitrim very good in the first half, got a goal from a goalkeeper mistake. Then Lancashire completely took over, looked like they had it won, deflected goal at the end in injury time of normal time, sent the game to extra time, and then from that point on Leitrim took over completely, but a goal right at the end just turned it from 4 points to 1 point. A little bit of squeaky bum time, but there wasn't enough time for Lancashire to get an equaliser. So congrats to Meath, Sligo and Leitrim.